Hi everybody, hope you're well. Welcome to the Property Empress podcast, and this is series 4, episode 7. And I am with Anna today, and my name is Drew. Anna, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I can't believe we're at episode 7.
It's just flown by.
It has flown by. And I was just on my live. I just did a TikTok live, and someone was saying they've recently found us and they're loving the podcast. I'm so sorry I can't remember your name, but that was very kind of you. So thank you so much if that was you.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's really nice to be getting some positive feedback. But yeah, episode 7, crazy.
Yeah, really hammering through the subjects, aren't we?
Yeah.
So what are we doing this week?
Yeah, so this week's an interesting one. So the Property Empress podcast typically focuses on how to build or expand your portfolio, buying the right properties in the right area, making sure that you're looking at the right strategies for what your long-term goal is. But what I have found recently is that I'm getting approached by a lot of people who are already landlords, have a few properties, and they're going through a really hard time with mortgage rates being what they are and with property prices falling, so it's quite difficult to sell. There's a lot of landlords who are basically really struggling, and for lots of different reasons. So we're gonna change course slightly. So we're going to be spending the next few episodes focusing on helping landlords who are struggling and some options. I want to give you some options, some ideas, just so that you don't feel kind of trapped by your portfolio. But it will also work if you aren't a portfolio. Mm-hmm. It will work if you're not a portfolio. It will also work if you're not already a landlord, because it will be, again, focusing on, it still will be building your portfolio, looking at the different strategies, etc. But we're just making sure we're bringing in the existing landlords and what their pain they're potentially experiencing at the moment. Does that make sense?
It does. I think it does.
So we talked last week, we're going to do rent to SA.
Yeah. But
what we're going to do is we're going to break it into 2 parts.
Okay.
Because why do things simply?
Yeah, let's just drag it out.
If you can drag it out, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
So, but it's not as bad as it sounds. So basically, I want to be talking about some of the conversations I'm having with these landlords, and particularly the solutions. So we have a new client at the moment. Well, I have a new client at the moment. It's a chap that I met really only last week or the last couple of weeks. He's a portfolio landlord himself, and he was basically thinking about converting one of his rental properties. He's got a portfolio of rental properties in London, and London's, as we know, is not particularly good cash flow area. He has owned the properties for quite a while, so that's kind of good. But he wants to boost his cash flow, so he's actually turning a couple of his properties into Airbnbs or into service accommodation. So I thought what we could talk about this week is we could talk about, if you're a landlord, or even if you're not a landlord and are interested in buying a property, we're going to be looking at, if you're a landlord and you want to potentially think about turning some of your rental properties into Airbnb to boost your cash flow, because obviously with mortgage rates going up, particularly if you're coming off fixed term mortgages, you might find that your mortgage rates are shooting up. You want to balance that out, you can potentially turn maybe 1 or 2 properties into an Airbnb to boost your cash flow. And really, because there is that part of me that's like, you're taking houses away from tenants, but you're keeping safe all the other houses. Like if you are a landlord, and particularly if your cash flow is dropping and it is impacting you financially, you need to keep yourself financially safe and secure so that you can protect your tenants. So for me, this is a case of, if you have a tenant leaving, you're thinking about turning the property, because this is what's happened with this client. Tenant has left and they were about to rent it out, but actually we talked about it. They've now decided to do an Airbnb. It will boost the income and keep the other tenants, keep the landlord's finances safe so that he can keep all the properties for his tenants.
It's looking at your portfolio as a whole rather than just as your buy-to-let properties. And this is why I think this works really, really well with what we do, because we have our buy-to-let portfolio, which is our standard, solid monthly earnings with our equity going up. And then we have our cash flow strategies, which bring us high income each month, which help support in the leaner times, lean times like now when the mortgage rates are going up. Fortunately, at this stage, it's not so much impact on us because we've got fixed terms, but that they will end soon, and they will end during this high period. And it's going to affect the cash flow of the portfolio itself. So having a second strategy or a third or fourth strategy, or however many you want to do, but in this specific case, having rent to SA means that you are able to increase a high cash flow strategy into your portfolio, and it helps balance out everything else. So it's really good idea, I think.
Yeah, totally agree. So we're gonna talk about rent to SA. So we obviously do rent to SA. This client owns the property, so we're gonna talk a little bit about. We're going to talk about rent to SA next week. We're going to go into the logistics and all the meaty good stuff that you guys want to hear. Rent to SA has still been the most listened to. We've done a similar, I did a similar rent to SA before. It's been our most listened to podcast, so it's definitely in demand. So we're going to talk about that next week. You're going to have some time talking about how it works, etc., numbers, how to find them, whatever you had plans.
Okay.
For this week, we're going to actually just be talking about what's going on with this particular client and this situation, because one of the things that we do, which is slightly crazy but very effective, that should be our tagline for our business, slightly crazy but very effective. But one of the things that we do, and I only realized this was unusual a few months ago when we were talking to a sourcing agent and she couldn't believe that we did this. We take 1 week. If we get a property, if we get the keys to a property, it will be on Rightmove. It won't be on Rightmove. It'll be on Airbnb and Booking.com in a week. So we will take a property, we'll dress it, we'll get everything ready, we'll put the key lock on, we'll do everything we need to get it up and running in a week, which I don't think sounds that good. But when you talk to people and when you actually understand what goes into it, that is very quick.
Well, it didn't sound that quick because we have done it a lot now. We've done it quite a few times, and each time we do it, it gets smoother. So taking this on and saying, yep. So we found out last Thursday and we're mid through the turnover now. So it's about day 5 of the week, and we're well on course to, it's going to go live in 7 days, no problem. But yeah, it just speaking to the landlord and him being a little bit stunned that we could do it that quickly. And it's been, well, actually I've done it in 3 days before. I have done it in 3 days.
The only reason it actually took 7 days this time was because the weekend was taken out because we already had plans. If we didn't have plans at the weekends, it would have definitely been quick. It probably would have been 3 days.
I mean, yeah, in all honesty, we don't normally get instructed on the Thursday to start on the Friday. Normally, the conversations will build for a week or two. Sometimes the thing with when you're renting to a management company like us, that it's an unusual route to take. It's not a standard buy-to-let route, so there's just a little bit of, not really anxiety, but it's more just a bit of apprehension about taking a step into something a little bit more unknown. And a big part of our job is reassuring the landlords that this is a secure and safe way to do it. But actually, when we're going through that process, it doesn't take. We don't normally have very decisive people who you speak to on the Thursday and say, well, if you can start it tomorrow, then we'll do it. So yeah, it was kind of drop everything a little bit for the week.
And there is a reason that it was so quick as well. And that's partly that the property was empty and they were literally about to market it for a tenant. But also we're going into peak season. So it was like because also one of the other key factors for the decision was that on the call with this client, the initial conversation, we went through the numbers and we looked at what was on the market, and I gave him an idea of what we would expect the monthly average cash flow to be over the year. So not even peak season, this is just generally, he's getting significantly more income from this. So and that's not even the peak season. So when he saw the numbers, it was a no-brainer for sure. But also I was like, you're going into peak season. So he's literally potentially losing hundreds of pounds a day for not acting quickly. So he was normal. Like, I'm pretty quick, but he was like, we need to do this as quickly as possible. How quickly can you do it? And I was like, well, if you basically send the payment, if you instruct me, send the payment, we'll start tomorrow. And he was like, right, boom, done.
You did talk to me briefly between calls.
Yeah.
I said, well, what are you doing the next week? How busy are you? It's like, well, I'm in peak season. So what do you think? Like, because we've got this really good opportunity to help someone.
He's a really nice guy as well. It's so clear this is the right strategy for him. So yeah, it's really cool.
It works really well. It's a really good property for what he's looking to do. And yeah, so it was all systems go last Friday.
So how did you start? So when we got let's go ahead, what was the first thing you did?
We got the go ahead about lunchtime on Friday. So I had to finish up what I was doing very quickly to get a train up to London to collect the keys.
And I got a little photo.
Yeah.
Drew holding the keys, the obligatory photo.
Yeah. We've always done that, haven't we? It's so sad.
It's just between the two of us, though. We don't do it on social media. We just laugh at ourselves.
Yeah. So, yeah, went up. I collected the keys. That was a fun journey. And not so much the journey up, but having to get the keys off of the letting agent who thought that they were getting them back. Yeah, that hasn't come back to bite us yet. I guess, yeah, follow us next week to find out what happened.
There's some miscommunication, or there's a communication breakdown. But yeah, I've spoken to the landlord. It's fine. Yeah.
It seems to be sorted their end, I think. But yeah, we went and collected the keys from the letting agent. Obviously, from our side, the letting agent's not dealing with it anymore. And I went down to the apartment and just went around, did some quick measurements, photos. I took my little notepad because I'm still a bit old school with that. I've been doing it on my phone quite a lot, but it's much easier to just go room by room and say, right, what does this need? What does this need? What can I fit in here? Because we do kind of have a cookie cutter approach to this. So that means we are basically doing the same thing each time, and we kind of overlook that our properties all have. But they're all slightly different shapes and sizes, so we have to make sure there are some where we can include extra bits in, and there are some where we have to take stuff out. It's very much dependent on the space and stuff like that as well. I mean, in this case, it's going to be able to sleep 4 people. So we need to make sure that we get a living space with a sofa bed, and as well as a proper bed in the main bedroom. But it's assessing the property, make sure we know what to do, making a list of everything I need to do, and then I came home and I start shopping, and that's the fun bit, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's dressing the property to get it ready for market is the most time-consuming part of it, but also it's quite good fun.
So what kind of stuff were you buying? What was the initial stuff you were originally shopping for?
So I always start with the big bits, the bits that are going to be the necessities. So it's always bed, sofa, TV, maybe a sofa bed if it's big enough, and then kitchen, table and chairs, and very often works dedicated space as well, because a lot, if you've gone on to Airbnb, you go much higher up the rankings if you've got a place where someone can work. And then, of course, it's hitting the market of midweek. People who are commuting or working are staying somewhere where they're travelling for work, and then they can use your property for that. So those are really the key things I get. They're the big things, they're the big heavy things, and they make the biggest difference when you start filling the property. So you can start to see the difference almost straight away when those bits are included in the property. So that is where I start.
Where do you get them from?
Where do I get them from? It's a combination of things. Some of the things I can buy new, so I'll order on Amazon or eBay shops for particular items. Very often I will use Facebook Marketplace for second-hand goods, because I can get good quality stuff at a cheaper price than brand new, and then I can get a decent bed, decent sofa, decent table and chairs, and you're not paying as much for it, so you're keeping the budget down for the clients as well, or for us if it's one of our properties. So yeah, that's my main ones. The stress of that is you can hit 10 or 15 people with particular sofa that you think is appropriate for the property, matches the colours, all that kind of thing, and you don't hear back for 12, 24, 36 hours. Got a couple of responses today from my messages from last Friday, so that's no, I got that on Saturday, I don't need you anymore.
Very unhelpful.
It's a bit hit miss from that side, but you can 9 times out of 10 find exactly what you want from someone who's selling it nearby. So that is where I start.
So you have now a big car.
Yes.
Have you done this? Yeah, because you had a small car before.
Mm.
So what do you do if you don't have a big enough vehicle?
Get a van.
Just hire a van?
The last car I had was just a normal hatchback. Nowhere near big enough to fit any of this stuff in. So yeah, I just had to hire a van. And a van's good in that you can do everything in a day. However, if you are trying to source stuff, a budget on Facebook Marketplace, you can't always find everything in the same day, and very often people will come back to you after you've taken the van back for the day, and it's up and down. So that's why I've got a big car, big estate boot, so I can fit things in now. Yeah, it just means a at a drop of a hat, I can just go and pick the bits up and go and dress the property. So yeah, really good.
So you have at the moment a boot full of stuff. So you get stuff, obviously you say you order stuff online, you go and Facebook Marketplace, etc. So what's all the stuff in the boot?
Oh, I did a B&M run today.
Look at his face. He's so happy.
Yeah. Just dressing items, really. So it's cushions, cushion blankets, bedding you can get, lamps, any kind of ornaments for the table and side tables and stuff like that. What else did I get? Toilet brushes, bath rugs, hanging rails, stuff like that.
Kitchen stuff?
Yeah, fully. That kitchen was the most expensive bit normally, because you have to, very often with these, there'll be empty kitchens. And even if they're not, you kind of want new stuff for an Airbnb. It's a bit more high quality. So all the cutlery, crockery, and then your cooking utensils. So kind of wooden spoons for stirring, and then spatulas, serving ladles, and then sharp knives, scissors, rolling pins.
Rolling pin?
Yeah, you need a rolling pin.
For an Airbnb?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
You never know. Because I've got put a bag of flour in there. We'll come to this in a minute. So rolling pin, chopping boards. And then you need glasses, mug, cleaning materials as well, so the guests can clean up after themselves there. What else do you need? Tablecloths. I mean, it goes on and on. Depends on what you're getting in the room. But yeah, this one's got quite a big kitchen, so it's fully equipped now.
But you tend to put the same stuff in each of the...
Yeah.
You have a cookie cutter approach.
Yeah, it tends to be the same kind of things. And then, brand new toaster, kettle, coffee machines. I generally source secondhand because you get a better quality one for that. Microwaves, you get... Yeah, I'm just listing kitchen stuff, really.
Fascinating.
Yeah, brilliant.
Fascinating stuff. So how much do you think you will spend in total, roughly?
To dress a property?
Yeah.
You are...
Because we're spending a bit more because this is a client.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a bit different.
I would do £1,000 for a property, a standard one normally. You'd go higher for a higher quality one. It depends where it is and what your target market is. So this one, you just buy the slightly better stuff, the extra attention to detail and stuff like that. When you're doing it in a week as well is also a bit of a rush, but it's kind of, when you've done it a few times, making the lists and cross-referencing everything as you go through it by room and by day, it just helps you get through all of that. That's what my boot's full of at the moment. I've also got a load of stuff arriving on the doorstep tomorrow, whether I'm there or not.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, brand new rugs and things like that to help dress the property. My sofa bed's not arrived yet, but I'm not worried about that at all. It should have arrived today.
Yeah, you definitely don't look worried.
No, I'm not worried at all. That's fine. That's definitely going to appear tomorrow, I hope.
So what's out of everything you've bought, particularly the second hand, actually not everything you've bought, what are you most chuffed with? What's been the best bargain?
Oh, the best bargain? Oh, the kitchen table's amazing.
Yeah.
It was hardly used by the previous owner. It's like solid oak wood, holds up to... It extends to over 2 meters long, so you can have guests in the kitchen. It's got 6 seats, even though the property only occupies 4. So you've got the extra room. It's really nice quality. It looks hardly used at all.
How much do you pay for it?
£50.
It's really good.
Good, isn't it?
Yeah, really good. What's been the thing that you've had to suck up and pay the most for?
Well, I bought a new sofa bed, brand new one. But that was like £200 because it's a fold down one. There was a sofa in there, but you need enough seating in a living room for 4 people if you're accommodating 4 people in the property. So I wanted to get a sofa bed as well. I need to make sure it matched, and this was the thing. I was just not getting the responses from people, so I had to go and buy a new one. But yeah, it wasn't a huge amount of money, and it is going to look really good in there as well. So I'm happy.
Good.
Going to be happy ultimately. But that was the only thing. I'm normally able to source a sofa bed quite easily, and it just wasn't the case this time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But there you go, it's part of the job.
So what else is on your list of things to do then over the next couple of days?
Well, I had to do a little bit of repair work on it as well, because there was a little bit of a damp patch, so I just had to block that and smooth it over. A little bit of painting, and yeah, it's pretty much at just the decorating the last bit stage now. As far as doing the house goes, as I said, my rugs are arriving tomorrow. My boot's full of stuff to go and take all that up there and get it all dressed. The extra bits and pieces, the decor, the little touches. That's what makes a massive difference, and that's what turns it from a property that's sort of in development. It's like, oh, it's got potential here, to somewhere where it's going to look really nice. People are going to come and stay there and notice like all the matching lamps in the room and the knickknacks that match that as well. And it matches the rug. I mean, it's all lined up. Yeah, once that's all done, it'll really feel like an Airbnb ready to go. So I'm hoping it's going to be finished tomorrow. I think there's a couple of final bits arriving on Friday, but for the most part, it's all going to be done.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Something that I love about what you do when you dress properties is everywhere has like, they kind of look similar because, like you say, the little details are kind of similar, but you always I think it's mainly the pictures, I might be wrong, but you tend to have like themes in each property. So we have one near the airport, and I love that because you've got all like the city, like all the kind of, London, cityscape, and you have like different cities of the world, like around, and it's done really beautifully. And then there's other flats that have slightly different feels and slightly different themes. So what have you done with this one?
Well, this was in London, so I've got some London themed pictures up. There's a bit of abstract art in the living room as well, which actually I didn't have to pay for that. I'd already had that, and I was able to just put that up, and it matches the kind of layout of the, because it's all quite modern looking furniture, so it sits quite well with that in the living room. And then I'm going to have kind of like a London themed bedroom, and then the location of it means that it's going to be targeting tourists mainly, and particularly this time of year, it's going to, seeing that kind of thing's going to, it's just be nice touches for it, I think. And
what about the check-in? Do you want to just talk for a moment about the key locks?
Check-in, yeah, we always use lock boxes that we put in a discrete location on the property, so they're not obvious for people to come and see. But part of the instructions when I fill out all the forms for guests to arrive, tells them where they are, how to access it, and what the codes are and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a lockbox on site. We do lockbox on site for all our properties. We find a way, no matter where they are, and sometimes they're a bit quirky, aren't they?
Yeah.
But it's always available. It's always self-check-in. Every property's self-check-in, so that guests can arrive once the property's open at their leisure. They don't have to wait for someone to arrive. They don't have to phone anybody. All the instructions are there, and they can just let themselves in and enjoy their holiday.
And presumably you're going to have to find a cleaner.
Yep. Let's not talk about that. I haven't done that yet. That will come.
So what's your usual?
Just reminding me of things on my list I haven't done yet.
What's your usual process for finding a cleaner?
Again, I use Facebook. I join local communities and put the word out for any local cleaners that want to do it. And then I usually work one-to-one with them. I have some cleaning companies I work with as well. I've been doing that for a few months with one particular area. It's going really well because everything is taken on by them. They do all the laundry as well, so I really don't have to do much. I just have to make sure that their supplies are topped up every so often. And yeah, it's real easy. I have another method as well, which I'm going to be using for this one, is I've got with my property management software that I use, there is an affiliation with a cleaning company app, and they provide cleaners at short notice to properties as well. So that might actually work quite well in this area, because there'll be a lot, the population is quite dense in that part, obviously in London, and I think it's going to work quite well finding people at short notice as well. You pay a little bit more for that, but then if they let you down, there's always backup as well. So good to have a few options with that to make sure that you're thorough with the cleaning, because the last thing I want to be doing is hopping on a train with an hour's notice before a guest gets in because someone's let me down.
And what happens with the linens and towels, like the washing?
It's always been arrangements with the cleaners for me. I find a cleaner who I can pay extra to actually handle that for me, and that's dealing with the laundrette, arranging a contract with the laundrette, and then they usually do overnight cleans. There is at least 3 for each property, sets of laundry for each property. So you have a clean one as a spare there, or you have a clean one on the beds, you have a clean one as a spare at the property if there's anything wrong with it that they discover that's been overlooked, and then you have the one that's in the wash as well, which is being cleaned, and then they turn it over next day and then replace. So that's towels, bedding, and usually like bath mats and throws and stuff like that, which I don't necessarily need it every time, but will need to be done at least weekly, maybe twice a week. So that's a laundry in a nutshell. Yeah, I find a way for someone to have that all done within the cleaning budget.
What's the process to putting them on Airbnb and booking?
Okay, so I've already started the process in the sort of small gap I had in between me dressing properties and falling asleep last night. You just... Because
you've been staying, sorry to interrupt you, you've been staying. You actually stayed at the property.
Last night, yeah, I did.
To save you 3 hours round trip of driving.
Yep.
So yeah, dedicated time.
Yeah, and so last night I was able to draft. So you don't go live with them on the platforms, but you draft the properties, you fill in the blurbs and descriptions, all of the policies of the property, which I blanket for our properties anyway. So it's just really copying what you've done before. Then there's the facilities, local areas, and you can fill a lot of it in. What's really missing at the moment is the photos because it's not ready. So that would kind of have to be the last bit I do. But once the photos are on, you can advertise live and then you go live immediately. I think sometimes booking.com, it can take an hour or two to register on the site, but you can be booking that day. If you're open that night for business, then you can take a booking that day.
Brilliant.
Good.
So do you put it on, you have Logify, don't you? Have your software.
Mm-hmm.
Do you put it on there?
So I don't have to put it on there. It will port it from one of the other platforms. So what you can do, Airbnb, you can write it out. Booking.com, you can port the photographs from Airbnb across to it. And VRBO, you can port to Booking.com. So if you filled it on that one, then you can port the advert onto Booking. Booking is the most extensive one out of the three. So you will then have to go in and make extra edits for all the policies because this Booking.com, it's not just, rent to SA, landlords and stuff like that. It's hotels and resorts. So I have to tick every time that I don't have a ski lift. It's not skiing, and I don't have snorkeling gear in the property and stuff like that. So that's how extensive it is. But you have to make sure that everything's ticked because you get the more information you put on, even if it's no's, which in 90% of the stuff that they cover is a no because we don't have, you can't do camelback rides in the middle of London like that where that is. So you just tick them all, you cross them all off, and the more complete the form is, the higher your page score is, and the higher your page score is, the higher you feature up the listing
boosted up the algorithm.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot to do on it. You can go live like immediately. You can list in 5 or 10 minutes on Airbnb. It's a very basic listing and most of it's missed out, but they just want to get you online, and then you have to make sure you got that, because if there's stuff that you just defaulted for you, you could have anything small from being undercharging on a property and not making your maximum return to renting out a property that is just not ready yet, that you didn't realize would go live immediately, and it's not ready for 3 or 4 days. That's why I do draft on it anyway, and I just have it sitting there as half complete, and then when I'm ready to go live, it's all done together and it's all uploaded at the same time, and it ports across. Sorry, back to your original question about 10 minutes ago. It ports across to Logify from Airbnb, so everything that's completed there will then go, it will scrape it and put it onto my website as a listing, and the listing looks the same as it does on Airbnb. All of the same descriptions, same photos. You can just book directly off my website then instead. Pretty handy tool, really.
Yeah, sounds good. And we also stay at the property, so we're going to be staying there on Friday night and test running it. Yeah. To make sure, because there's always something that with all the planning, you come and realize, even if it's a quirk for that property, there's always something they suddenly think, oh, actually, I remember the classic being scissors. That was one of the early ones. Like we actually had a friend stay in one of the properties, and she was like, there's no scissors. And I was like, oh, that's a really good point. So there's, sometimes little bits and pieces. So you kind of test run rather than getting a guest in and they give you a negative review for your first thing because there's no scissors.
No scissors. Yeah. It wouldn't be the most ridiculous review I've ever had.
No,
either.
Exactly. Is there anything else that you think would be worth sharing?
Anything else I do? I would.
Oh, do you want to talk about you do like a welcome pack, don't you? And you have your board and you have the stuff that gets sent to them.
Board?
You have your board. So I don't know all the term. I don't know all the
I don't know
lingo.
what board is.
No, you've got your welcome pack, and then you've got that pop-up board thing.
The stand.
The
yes.
stands.
Yeah, the
I
welcome
should have
stand.
said stand. The board is what threw you.
Board. Took me ages to make them.
How is stands
Board.
like?
Makes it sound like I just slap it on the wall.
How is that different?
Okay,
Board
so
and stands.
I have standalone clear perspex stands with all of the relevant information for a guest to check in. So that is
all the snappy like
Wi-Fi code, checkout time, house rules, quiet times, and
contact details.
Emergency contact details. That's really all you need on
it's
it.
all high level stuff, so they can just see it.
So they can just a snapshot. It's there in front of them. They need to know a little bit more, like they can't get the heating up, or they don't know how something works in the kitchen. Then I have a house manual, a hard copy house manual as well. That's all printed off from my wonderful check-in app that I have, which is massively underused by guests for some reason. But it ultimately is an app dedicated to your stay, to link to your property, giving you directions to the property, your code to get in, your Wi-Fi code, local recommendations of where to eat, what to go and do while you're staying there, then exactly everything that how to work the house, how the bits and pieces work, how to turn the heating on, why you need to switch the valve on the shower first before you turn the water on, which is one of our houses. And again, emergency contacts. There's also emergency lists, transport information. It's all on the app. And I give them a hard copy as well, because not everyone's using the app, and it's just another reminder that you have everything you need there. And even if you haven't found what you're looking for, there's a phone number for my assistant who can help you out with everything you need.
That's a very good follow-up question, like the assist. So tell us a bit about your assistant.
It's amazing. It's like a weight lifted. I've been working with her a little while now, and I've always been very controlling of the whole business because it's my baby and I created it, and we grew so much in the last year that I just can't do it all anymore. I've got a wonderful assistant who is remote and has her own dedicated phone number, and she deals with all of the guest queries. She helps guests get in the property. She helps them with the Wi-Fi's and all the stuff I provide the information for. But sometimes it's just helpful to speak to someone, and she's always on hand. She's really useful for them to be able to just bounce off ideas. Sometimes there's complaints, and they can just say to her, like, these guests are being a bit noisy, and then she can feed it back to me. But ultimately, I'm only having to deal with one person now instead of several a night. She's like a filter, isn't she?
Yeah,
she can answer a lot of stuff herself now. We've gone through this a lot. We've got an enormous spreadsheet of. I tried to do it in a flow chart, but it was too many things, too complicated. So we just did a list and the answer, and then the what if this, and then eventually it's like, okay, just call me if you get to this point. But 99% of the time it doesn't need to come to me, because she's done it a few times now, and now she just does it. And it goes days where I don't hear from her sometimes, and I'm like, are you okay, still working? She's like, yeah, no, it's good. I had to do this the other day. I just wonder if you could check this because they said this wasn't working and stuff like that. But it's really good. It's how we scale up as well. So I've got cleaners doing the cleaning and laundry. I have someone taking the calls, and it means I can go and do the bit that I enjoy doing, which is prepping.
Shopping.
Yeah, exactly. Prepping the houses and getting them ready and marketing them. So yeah, it's good.
Brilliant. That's so useful. I had a question and it's just gone out of my head. I'll see if it comes back. Oh no, that's what I was going to ask. Okay. What would you say is your most asked question from the guests?
Oh, it's a tie, I think, between the lockbox doesn't work and what's the Wi-Fi code.
Yeah, I thought it might be Wi-Fi.
It's those two. So the lockbox is people just not reading the check-in instructions. I mean, you can do it every single way. So I have an app. I actually have an automated message which sends to the guest the morning of their check-in, telling them how to get to the property, how to find the lockbox, and what the code is. And they seem to get to, particularly with one of them, which is you do need instructions to follow to the box. So they've got that far, but they say they're entering a completely different code. Completely different. I don't know where they get it from. I think they just use the PIN number, which is from your booking reference. And if I had slightly more advanced technology, I would be able to just reset it to the PIN code every time. But I don't always know what the PIN code is. I think that just gets emailed to the guest. So I don't know. We'll find a way for that. But yeah, the other one's the Wi-Fi code, which is plastered in 3 or 4 different places, not least on the Wi-Fi router, but it's also on the stand,
The
board as you call it. It's in the app and in the book as well.
I mean, I see it I can't imagine. I mean, the Wi-Fi code, especially when I go to any of your properties, it's everywhere.
I've got a little picture. I've got the little Wi-Fi picture on it in case you can't read Wi-Fi. It's like, well, you know what the symbol is because it's everywhere.
I can't. It's the fact that they would have had to go onto like the app, which has the Wi-Fi code, to ask you what the Wi-Fi code is, or they would have had to go to the board to get your contact details, which also has the Wi-Fi code, to ask what the Wi-Fi code is. It's very bizarre. Hey ho. But you don't have to deal with that anymore. Get sent to your assistant. But
sometimes it's just, and I think they get a lot of messages, and booking.com will send 2 or 3 messages, and then I will as well, because I have to instruct them, remind them it's self-check-in, and if you've got any questions, and remind them of the check-in time. I think it can be a bit overwhelming sometimes. So I do try and keep it to a minimum, but I do have to send them the check-in instructions. And I only put that step in because no one was reading the app. No one was reading it. So it's like, well, if you don't read the app, at least you can still get in. So it still gets there. So I don't know what the answer is for self-checking properties yet. Maybe I'll find a way. But
it works for the majority of your guests.
Oh yeah, 90% of them are fine. But you just, when you get to a large portfolio, you do every week you'll have them who aren't checking it. But no, technology's getting better. There is stuff I can do now with smart locks and stuff like that. But unfortunately, when I'm in shared blocks, a complex of like 200 or 300 apartments that I have in one of them, there's no way I can do that because it's a particular key fob for entry. So you need that to enter the apartment complex itself. So that's not really an option, unfortunately. But no, I think largely I'm getting it right with that. But it's always a work in progress to try and make it easier for the guests.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much. So that's kind of the logistics of getting a property up and running, which is really fascinating. Next week, we'll talk about rent to rent and how you structure it. Like, what kind of things do you want to cover next week?
I would like to, if we're talking about people acquiring them in the first place, let's tell people how to do that. We've done several different ways, and yeah, I think anyone can get it if they know what they're doing and you understand how the subject works.
Yeah, totally agree.
But yeah, I'd like to talk about how to get them, how to source them. Kind of, we talk about the contracting and stuff like that, and some of the rules and regs you need to think about as well. I think that's important to point out.
Yes,
because you can't, and we'll talk about it next week, but you can't do it with every property, and we'll explain why. But yes, there's plenty out there. There's plenty of options out there for people who want to build a rent-to-SA business.
Cool. Thank you so much.
All right.
If you need to contact me or Drew, you can contact us through propertyempress.com. There's a contact form, or you can email me directly, anna@annapierce.com. You can also message me through all the platforms. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and LinkedIn, although I don't tend to use it as much. If you have any questions from today's episode, or if you have any suggestions or questions for future episode, please do get in contact. It's really nice to hear from you. And a 5-star review if you're enjoying the podcast would be greatly appreciated. I think that's everything.
That's it. We've covered it.
Yeah. So next week, rent to SA.
Yeah, we'll go into more detail about rent to SA. Happy to do that.
And if you want us to create our magic and turn your rental property, if you're interested, actually, maybe I should say that, if you're interested in potentially considering turning your rental property into an Airbnb property, you can book a free 30-minute consultation with me through propertyempress.com. What I had with this client was we had an initial conversation, and it was abundantly clear this is the right solution for him, particularly when we looked at the numbers. So I can have that conversation. If you're thinking about it, book a call with me and we can go through it.
All right.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
See you next week. Bye.